You just walked out of an immigration attorney's office. It is 5:40 in the evening. You went in for a consultation about your naturalization application. You brought everything: your green card, your tax returns, your travel history, your employment records. You thought you were ready. But as you were leaving, the attorney said something that stopped you at the door. She said, "Before you file, pull your credit report. Certain financial patterns in your credit history can complicate a public charge review during naturalization, and most people do not find out until the interview." You nodded. You said thank you. But walking to your car, you realized you had no idea what she meant. Public charge, credit report, naturalization interview. How are those three things connected? What exactly does USCIS look at in your financial life? Does a low credit score mean your application gets denied? Does having debt mean you are a public charge? You have been in this country for years. You have paid your taxes. You have never been in trouble. You assumed your finances were separate from your immigration case. Most immigrants assume the same thing. And that assumption is exactly what causes avoidable complications at the naturalization interview and during adjustment of status review. What immigration attorneys charge $325 per hour to clarify before you file is sitting right here. Stay with me. I am Jacob, and I reviewed the official USCIS policy documentation on public charge inadmissibility, the DHS final rule on public charge grounds published in the Federal Register, and the specific financial factors USCIS officers are trained to evaluate during naturalization and adjustment of status interviews. Everything here comes directly from USCIS.gov, the Immigration and Nationality Act, and published DHS policy. Before we go through this, USCIS policy on financial review and public charge has been updated multiple times in recent years, and the current standards are not what they were 5 years ago. USCIS does not notify you personally when the standards change. Subscribe and turn on the notification bell so updates reach you before your interview date. And join our WhatsApp community, link in the description, where we share confirmed USCIS policy updates the moment they are verified. Now let me show you exactly what USCIS looks at, what your credit score does and does not affect, and what you can do right now. Here is what is actually confirmed under current USCIS policy. The public charge ground of inadmissibility is codified in INA Section 212A.4. It applies specifically to applicants seeking admission to the United States or applying for adjustment of status, meaning a green card, from inside the country. Under the DHS public charge rule currently in effect, USCIS officers must conduct a totality of circumstances review of an applicant's financial situation when public charge is at issue. This review includes age, health, family status, assets, resources, financial status, and education and skills. Your credit history and credit score are not listed as standalone determinative factors in the INA. However, and this is the part most people miss, your credit history is one of the financial documents that USCIS can and does request as evidence of your financial status during an adjustment of status interview. Here is what is being shared in immigrant communities that is not accurate. There are posts circulating saying that any immigrant with a credit score below a certain number will automatically be denied a green card or naturalization. That is false. There is no USCIS minimum credit score requirement published in law or regulation. There are also posts saying that if you have ever used a credit card and carried a balance, USCIS will count that as evidence you are a public charge risk. That is also false. Carrying a credit card balance is normal financial behavior and does not by itself constitute a public charge concern. The difference between knowing what USCIS actually evaluates versus what is being rumored in group chats could be the difference between filing confidently and delaying your application unnecessarily. Now let me break down exactly what USCIS looks at in your financial life and what it does not. The first financial factor is your history of using means-tested public benefits. This is the primary financial concern in a public charge review under INA Section 212A.4b. Means-tested public benefits, the ones that count toward a public charge determination, include supplemental security income, temporary assistance for needy families, supplemental nutrition assistance program, Medicaid for non-emergency care, and federal public housing assistance. If you have received one or more of these benefits for more than 12 months in the aggregate within any 36-month period, that is the threshold that triggers a significant public charge concern in an adjustment of status application. This is confirmed in the DHS public charge rule published in the Federal Register. What does not count toward public charge under current policy includes emergency Medicaid, school nutrition programs, WIC, the Children's Health Insurance Program, Social Security retirement benefits, Medicare, unemployment insurance, and workers' compensation. Many immigrants avoid all benefit programs out of fear, including programs that legally have no effect on their immigration case. That is an unnecessary sacrifice. Knowing exactly which programs count and which do not is the most practically valuable information in this entire video. Tax attorneys and immigration attorneys charge $300 per hour to go through this list with clients one by one. You now have the same breakdown. But public benefit history is only one part of the financial picture USCIS reviews. The second financial factor is your overall financial stability, and this is where your credit history enters the picture. During an adjustment of status interview, a USCIS officer conducting a public charge review may ask you to provide evidence of your financial resources. Acceptable evidence includes recent tax returns, pay stubs or employment verification, bank statements, and in some cases, a credit report. A credit report is not required in every case. But if an officer is evaluating your financial stability and your overall picture is thin, limited employment history, limited tax records, limited bank account activity, a credit report showing consistent on-time payments, manageable debt, and financial responsibility can strengthen your case. Conversely, a credit report showing collections, judgments, or charged-off accounts can raise questions about financial management that an officer may probe during the interview. The exact words to use if an officer asks about negative items on your credit report during an adjustment of status interview are these. That item reflects a past financial difficulty that has since been resolved. I have documentation showing my current financial stability. Here's my most recent tax return, my current employment verification, and my bank statements. Then present those documents. Do not over-explain. Do not apologize for past financial difficulty. Do not say I did not know I had to worry about my credit. Present the current picture clearly and let the documents speak. Never say during a USCIS interview, I have bad credit because I needed to use public benefits to survive. That single sentence connects two factors, public benefit use and poor financial management, in a way that gives an officer grounds to probe both issues further. Keep your answers to what was asked, nothing more. Consider what happens when someone does not prepare for this. A permanent resident applies for naturalization after 8 years in the United States. He does not review his credit report before filing. At his naturalization interview, the officer asks routine financial questions. The officer pulls a standard background check that includes a public record search. There are 2 collections accounts showing on his public record from medical bills he thought were resolved. The officer asks about them. He does not have documentation showing they were paid. The interview is inconclusive. He receives a request for additional evidence adding 60 to 90 days to his case. That delay was completely avoidable by pulling and reviewing his credit report before filing. The third financial factor is the affidavit of support, Form I-864, and how it interacts with your own financial profile. For many green card applicants, a U.S. citizen or permanent resident sponsor is required to file Form I-864, Affidavit of Support, on their behalf. The sponsor legally commits to maintaining the applicant at a household income of at least 125% of the federal poverty guidelines. The sponsor's financial strength, not the applicant's credit score, carries the primary weight of the public charge financial review in sponsored immigration cases. However, this does not mean your own finances are invisible. USCIS still reviews the applicant's overall circumstances. And if the applicant has a history of significant public benefit use that the sponsor's affidavit cannot explain away, that history remains part of the record. What you must never assume is that a strong affidavit of support from your sponsor fully insulates you from all financial scrutiny. It addresses the forward-looking question of whether you will need public support. It does not erase the backward-looking record of whether you already used it in amounts that triggered the public charge threshold. The fourth factor is the specific situation of naturalization applicants. And this is where many long-term green card holders are surprised. Naturalization under INA Section 316 does not have a public charge bar. Naturalization applicants are not subject to a new public charge determination. However, the naturalization interview does include a review of your moral character and your overall conduct during the period of permanent residence. An officer reviewing your naturalization file can see your full history, including any noted public benefit usage in your adjustment of status file, any tax compliance issues, and any financial judgments or liens in public records. A low credit score alone will not cause a naturalization denial, but unresolved tax debt, outstanding federal financial obligations, or a pattern in your record that raises questions about financial conduct during your residence period can become issues at the naturalization interview. The exact words to use when preparing for a naturalization interview are these: review your credit report at annualcreditreport.com, the only federally authorized free credit report site. Identify any collections, judgments, or public records. Resolve what can be resolved before you file. For anything that cannot be resolved before filing, prepare a brief written explanation and supporting documentation to bring to the interview. The fifth factor applies specifically to immigrants who are building credit for the first time in the United States. Many immigrants, particularly those who arrived as adults, have no U.S. credit history even after years of living and working here. A thin or non-existent credit file does not automatically create a public charge concern, but it does create a gap in your financial documentation that an officer may note during review. building a responsible U.S. credit history through a secured credit card, a credit builder loan, or being added as an authorized user on a family member's account strengthens the overall financial picture you present to USCIS over time. This is not about your credit score for a bank loan. This is about having a documented U.S. financial footprint that supports your immigration file. Here is your exact step-by-step plan before filing any USCIS application that involves a financial review. Step 1. Go to annualcreditreport.com, the only federally authorized free site, and pull your credit reports from all three bureaus, Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. You are entitled to one free report from each bureau per year. Step 2. Review each report for collections accounts, judgments, tax liens, and charged-off accounts. Write down every negative item with its date and current status. Step 3. For any resolved negative items, gather documentation showing they were paid or discharged, bank records, settlement letters, or zero balance statements. Step 4. For any unresolved negative items, create a brief written explanation, one paragraph, describing what happened and what your current financial situation is. Bring this and your 3 most recent bank statements and your most recent 2 years of tax returns to any USCIS interview. Step 5. If you have received any means-tested public benefits, SSI, SNAP, TNF, non-emergency Medicaid, or federal housing assistance, calculate the total months you received each benefit. If the combined total approaches or exceeds 12 months within any 36-month period, consult an immigration attorney before filing an adjustment of status application. Step 6. If you are a naturalization applicant with unresolved tax debt or outstanding federal financial obligations, address those before filing your N-400. Contact the IRS at 1-800-829-1040 about a payment plan. An active installment agreement shows financial responsibility and is far better than an unresolved balance in your record. Here are the free resources that support everything in this video. Free annual credit reports, federally authorized site only, annualcreditreport.com. USCIS public charge information, USCIS.gov, green card processes and procedures, public charge. USCIS naturalization information, USCIS.gov, citizenship, IRS payment plans and tax resolution, IRS.gov or 1-800-829-1040. Immigration legal aid by location, immigrationadvocates.org. National Immigration Law Center, NILC.org. BIA, accredited representatives, justice.gov, EOIR, recognized organizations, USCIS mainline, USCIS.gov, or 1-800-375-5283. One important warning before I close. There are people charging immigrants money to fix their credit report before a USCIS filing, promising to remove negative items and guarantee a clean record for the interview. Legitimate credit repair cannot remove accurate negative information from your credit file before its legal expiration date. Anyone who tells you they can erase accurate collections or judgments for a fee before your USCIS interview is either misleading you or planning to dispute accurate information illegally, which can create a fraud record that damages your immigration case far more than the original credit issue. Use annualcreditreport.com for free. Dispute only genuinely inaccurate items directly with the bureaus for free, and only work with BIA accredited representatives or licensed immigration attorneys for your USCIS filings. Never pay anyone who guarantees your application will be approved. Now I want to hear from you. Did you know that USCIS could review your credit history during an adjustment of status interview? Has a USCIS officer ever asked you about your finances? Drop your experience in the comments below, and tell me, which country are you originally from and which state are you in right now? Your question may become the next video on this channel. I am Jacob. You have rights in this country. Knowing them is not defiance. It is protection. Take care of yourself.